Ryan, have you heard from Brian one way or the other whether he'll be here tonight? There he is. Awesome. Thank you. Good evening, Brian.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you great. Thank you.
Hey, it worked today.
You still have scrubs on, but you got a different background there. At least a different desk in that same room, possibly.
I just changed rooms, but whatever one was open.
Nice, nice. All right, we are officially here, so let us get this meeting of this North W City Council underway here on March 23rd. Tracy, could I have a roll call, please?
Harrington,
Here.
Hoffman,
Here.
Pollock,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Wason.
Here.
Thank you. And we're also, I don't think there's anything on the agenda to move around or modifications to that. So all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We need a motion in a second. Sorry.
Oh,
So move.
thank you.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Okay, now a roll call, Tracy.
You can do the voice vote. You can, all those in favor.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
All right, all right. I had some bad notes here, so here we go. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you all. For the consent agenda, we'll do the same thing. I thought I would pull out the liquor license renewal. It's been a topic of conversation here for the last several days, and ask Grant if he could review in a meeting for us publicly the information that he shared with us in his well-drafted letter.
Thank you, Council. I sure can. My understanding is that there's been some correspondence from the members of the Quail Creek Condo Owners Association concerning the status of Clubhouse Road, which is an access road that leads to their condos that is owned by the golf course TLNL Incorporated there, but commonly known as Quail Creek Golf Course. And the request from some of the correspondence that's been received was inquiring as to whether the city would be able to deny a renewal of the liquor license permit for that business based on the condition of Clubhouse Road. The theory being that if that liquor license renewals are predicated upon compliance with various city codes, including the fire code. And that if the business was not in compliance with the fire code, then the city would have a non-capricious, non-arbitrary reason for denying renewal. And so I investigated this, first heard about this last year, and then it came up again this time, just I think because of the renewal. And the long and short of it is that right now there is no fire code violation that would predicate or justify, in my view, denial of the license for that basis. The reason being is fire code requires merely that an access road support the weight, or support the load of an apparatus. And as of last fall, this Clubhouse Road, in the opinion of Fire Chief Plotz, satisfied that requirement. He, I understand, went out there today in the city's heaviest apparatus, an aerial truck, and it's bumpy. It's not a great road, but they can travel it just fine. He made a note of the fact that our fire department, in fact, services a fair amount of the unincorporated county out in rural areas where there are gravel roads and dirt roads and roads that are in far worse shape comparatively, and those are his words, than Clubhouse Road, and they can travel it just fine. So the assumption under all that all the requests are based on is that there's a fire code violation, I don't think is supported by the facts. I'm happy to answer any other questions. I'm reluctant to get into specific any legal advice, if that's okay.
I can appreciate that. Do you guys have any questions about this while we have Grant here and from his email yesterday?
Chris, I don't have a question. I would just say publicly, it has been frustrating that the owners have not complied with previous legal requirements for them to maintain the road. Although we cannot and will not vote to deny the liquor license based off of that, I just would say that it is disappointing. And speaking for the residents that I represent, as we all do in that area, if the owners do see this presentation, I would ask as a counselor that they work with that homeowners association and work to a satisfactory resolution.
Thank you. Well said. Anyone else? Okay. All right. So with that, now back to the item 4 consent agenda. Could I get a motion from the floor to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you. And now are all in favor of that consent agenda signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 5, engineering report. Kevin, your turn.
All right, thanks, Chris. I've got a couple of project updates for you guys tonight. The Southwest Growth Utility Project, the masons have completed the lift station building walls now, and they've installed the rough conduit and plumbing into the lift station building, and they've backfilled the floor slab area. They still have not been able to install the force mains in between Kansas and Jones Boulevard because of the continued wet and muddy conditions. And I'm thinking with the current weather forecast, it still may take some time for that to dry out. They have drilled the pilot hole under I-380 and started jacking the steel casing for the final boring. It has been going very slowly, but they are making progress. The final completion date on that project is May 31st. We have a meeting with the contractor on Thursday for another update. The Rancho House renovation project, they did install the permeable pavers in the parking lot, and they're working currently on the window replacements. We did get an updated schedule from them yesterday. They're planning on having all the window replacements, the new south ADA ramp, refinishing in the front door, reinstallation of the north front porch steps and the new lattice that goes there, and finishing all the exterior siding by April 9th. So that's coming up pretty soon. And then by May 7th, they said they should have all the exterior painting, the gutters and downspouts, and the parking lot striping and signage should be completed. So that should be generally substantially completed early May. And then we'll do a walkthrough and see if there's any punch list items. The final completion date on that project is May 30th. And then City Hall project, we're continuing work on the programming concept phase. We continue to have lots of meetings with city staff and discussing and reviewing different options. We have another meeting with staff on Thursday to talk about floor plans, and there will be a virtual public house on Friday at noon to discuss the future City Hall and I think the overall city campus area. That will be the last of the virtual open houses that Nick has been putting on. That's all I have tonight, unless you guys have questions.
Any questions for Kevin?
Kevin and Russ and staff. Oh, go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
Oh, just a quick question, Kevin. How far underneath 380 is that force main?
That's actually a big gravity sewer. How far underneath it?
Yeah.
The depth?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's about 20 feet. It's pretty deep.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been having problems with running into some sand seams, and it's just taken them forever to jack this large steel casing under there. But we'll find out more on Thursday. But my understanding with talking to the inspector today is that they are still moving forward. It's going, but it's just going very slowly.
Kevin, I just want to say thank you to you and Russ and Nick and Pentecost and other staff. Watched the Cherry Street, Dubuque Street, Front Street presentation.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that was very well done. Seeing those renderings was awesome, and bringing that, I've shared that everywhere I can share it, because that's those concepts and those drawings really bring in, show the project very well, but also the branding that we've worked on and some of
Right.
the aspects of that. So really nice to see that.
Yeah, those have actually been pretty fun, these virtual ones. We've had a lot of people attend, and I'm assuming a lot of people watch it from the city website. I've done 2 of them, the Parks one and then that one, and there was also the Rancho Way Phase 5. So, I think Nick and Ryan and Tracy and city staff did a great job of setting all these up, but they've been fun.
Anything else for Kevin? All right. Thanks, Kevin, for that report. Okay, Ryan, you're
Good
up.
evening, everyone. Thank you. 2 real quick hitters. I mentioned last time, actually Kevin just mentioned it as well, the Facebook event this Friday at noon. Please join us on our website. And you can also find the previous ones there as well. As Kevin mentioned, this one will focus on the civic campus. We'll talk a little bit about the design process with City Hall. Obviously, we don't have a whole lot to share. We want to make sure and have anything in front of this group before we talk specifically to the public about anything, but we will talk about big picture stuff and just the civic campus in general, and how the new improvements at the fire station tie into all that. So should be another good one on Friday, and that'll be the last, as Kevin mentioned also. Also, the utility assistance program, again, if folks are interested, they haven't rolled out any of the applications yet. It's just the pre-check, but it's at iowafinance.com. And we would encourage folks who think they might qualify for some assistance to take a look at that. And then lastly, another item related to this pandemic is the American Rescue Plan Act that was recently approved by Congress and the president in the amount of $1.9 trillion. And you've probably heard that there is a bunch of programs involved with that act. The one that will impact cities directly is direct payments to the city, which is very interesting. It appears that the city of North Liberty will be receiving $2.7 million from this act. We don't have a lot of the details yet, and while there was some rules set out in the legislation, we're told that another branch of the government will actually write the specific rules. Some of the early things that it talks about is that it can't go to offset a tax increase or decrease. It has to be used for pandemic related revenue loss. It sounds like it might be available for other infrastructure projects. Again, it's really early on, but it's a big number. And for example, I think the county is going to get, Johnson County, that organization is going to get somewhere around $29 million. So there's some big money coming down from the federal government on this. And most likely it'll be in 2 separate installments about a year apart. And then there'll be requirements on when it has to be spent. I'll be sitting in on a webinar actually later this week where I hope to learn a little bit more. But that'll be something that you'll hear more from us about, and you folks will have some decisions to make when we get to that point. And that's what I have tonight, Chris, unless there are other questions.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Does anybody have any questions?
Ryan, can you just
2.9
highlight?
million. Yeah, sorry.
Can you highlight in detail the spring cleanup day, please?
Oh yeah, thanks, Brent. That event, the spring cleanup event, will be the last Saturday of April. which is traditionally when we have it, and that is April 24th. We'll be opening up the gates at 7 a.m., collecting through 11 o'clock. We'll be asking people to remain in their cars. Okay, some people have done that in the past. Others like to get out and help. We'll have it. It should look like most other years, with a few of those types of exceptions where we'll ask people to stay in their vehicles. We might direct them to different spots depending on how we have things set up internally on our campus. Those details will be published and then provided again when you get to the site. But we are planning to have it April 24th.
Great reminder. Any other questions for Ryan? Okay. Moving on in the agenda, I jokingly told Terry that I think he took this meeting off because he knew how much reading there was going to be involved in it. So you guys have to sit back and get used to this here for the next few minutes anyway. Mayor's report is a proclamation on Child Abuse Prevention Month, April of 2021. Whereas children are vital to North Liberty's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, and whereas all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities they need to foster healthy growth and development, and whereas Iowa is leading research efforts to better understand the negative long-term outcomes of child abuse and neglect among adults through the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, which shows that poor physical health, mental health, and financial health in adulthood is attributed to adverse experiences in childhood, including abuse and neglect. And whereas research shows that the presence of just one caring relationship in a child's life builds resilience and mitigates negative outcomes, especially in a child with a high ACEs score. And whereas child abuse and neglect is a community responsibility and can be reduced by making sure each family has the support it needs to raise children in a healthy environment. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among the courts, social service agencies, schools, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And whereas effective youth serving programs like those offered by the North Liberty Summer Lunch and Fun Program, North Liberty Library, North Liberty Recreational Department, North Liberty Unity Coalition, and United Action for Youth offer positive alternatives for young people and encourage youth to develop strong ties to their community. And whereas the North Liberty Mayor and City Council members recognize the need for community awareness of local child abuse prevention efforts and healthy parenting education and support from organizations like Johnson County Community Partnerships for Protecting Children and Prevent Child Abuse, Johnson County, and encourage families to attend the Community Cares Resource Fair on Saturday, April 10th, from noon until 2 o'clock in the North Liberty Community Center North parking lot. I will leave the rest of that off of there. All right, thank you all. Moving on to item number 8, the Dubuque Street project. Item A is resolution number 2021-22, a resolution establishing just compensation for acquisition of certain real property for the Dubuque Street Phase 1 improvement project. And real quick, I think, Grant, if you could just give us an overview of what this is, please.
Happy to. Previous week's meeting, the council approved the use of compensation estimates, which is a procedure that's in lieu of getting appraisals for fairly uncomplicated acquisitions. Because it's me doing the math, it takes me 2 weeks to put some figures together. Multiply square footage times appraised values, and then round up to the next $50. And that's what you see before you is this is the same process we use for estimating the values for temporary construction easements, and in this case we have one property that has a drainage easement that's very uncomplicated, and so based on this, I've had the appraisers look at it and make sure it looks okay, and they say okay, so I suggest or recommend approval of you, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Grant? Pretty straightforward, it seems. Okay, could I get a motion from the council on this item?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Okay, Tracy, roll call, please.
Harrington,
Aye.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 9 is our third consideration of the Greenbelt Trail 2 LLC rezoning. Third consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2021-01, an ordinance amending chapter 167 of the North Liberty Code of Ordinances by amending the use of regulations on property located on the west side of North Liberty Road, approximately 225 feet north of Salm Drive, and also being east of the Arlington Ridge subdivision located in North Liberty, Iowa, to those set forth in the municipal code for the RS6 single unit residence district. Again, could I have a motion from council on this item?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Annie. I was almost going to jump in there and do that myself. Just for the record, I won't do that tonight, so I will need the 4 of yours help on that. Okay, Tracy, can I have a roll call, please?
Smith,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Harrington,
I saw her say something. She froze, but now she's smiling.
now you're unmuted.
Now you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Now you're muted.
Aye.
There we
Better?
go.
Okay, there we go.
Ooh, Hoffman,
Aye.
Pollock.
Aye.
Okay, we made it through that one. Item 10 is the Greenbelt Trail preliminary plat. 10A is staff and commission recommendations. Russ, I will turn this over to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I do see that Pat Scanlon's on. He is the representative of the ownership, as well as Devin Lawson. He is representative of the design team. Going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. The property for the preliminary plat is the cross-hatched area, showing an area in red that was pulled out of this request. And that's going to be forthcoming as a new rezoning to RD10 and a preliminary plat. We just had a neighborhood meeting on that area last week, but that should be considered on its own merits. And so the overall area in yellow is the part that was just rezoned to RS6, and it just shows you how that fits in that area. The comprehensive plan land use is residential, so the RS6 zoning and the preliminary plat, which develops property in accordance with RS6 standards, is consistent with the long range plan. You've seen similar versions of this. I don't think it's changed much since our last meetings. This area in gray is the item that's pulled out. Just a couple of things that we want to talk about is, again, some of the concerns raised by some of the residents that we had in the late December neighborhood meeting. Was the traffic calming that you see here is kind of splitting this road and kind of increasing this curve radius here that we hope to slow down traffic. Development will generally anticipate starting from the east and then going to the west. You do see a fire road access here. We are asking for that to be pulled off the preliminary plat, and the reason for the fire road access is because a secondary access is required once you have 30 lots. But since this area was pulled out, they don't have 30 lots. So, but we will ask that that be put on the forthcoming preliminary plat. The other item for discussion is Mr. Scanlon is asking for some kind of partnership with the city regarding the construction of a trail that would connect from the Dubuque Street Trail, come along the south side of Arlington Ridge, turn north along this street, and then come east and eventually make its way into the school board property. We did talk to the school board. They are open to this trail extending onto their property. But we still, it's a little too early to start compelling who pays for what and how this relationship would work out. So we've just asked that it just be identified as a trail, outlot for a trail, and we feel it's more appropriate to discuss those things in the developer's agreement, where they actually are ready to physically construct that portion of it. Just kind of drew this map to show how this fits into the overall context of this area of East North Liberty. Kind of this is the area here, and I've kind of drawn in some concepts of how the street network would grow. This is the road that comes along east, and kind of this dark blue line is our existing trail network, and this light blue line is our planned network. And so it kind of shows this trail connection coming through. We'll advocate that it come through the school board property and then continue east, hooking up to the North Liberty Trail. But I think this is an important trail connection. So we do have two very nice trails and one that'll be on North Liberty Road. But if you get mid block, so to speak, or midway, there's not a good way to cut through and go east. And that'll be good when the school property gets developed. So just kind of these were the things that we talked about at the neighborhood meeting. I did want to point out that we did have one commissioner express a preference for the trail to enter into the detention area. And it's a good comment. And I've seen other communities that have very nice trails that are adjacent to a creek or something like that. It was just so tight here, and the way that the detention area functioned, it just wasn't feasible to do that. And so we talked through that issue, but I did want to bring that was discussed. So the approval standards are chapter 180. We did review those in accordance in staff's opinion that it does meet those ordinance conditions to warrant approval. And so here's the Planning Commission's finding. They did have one finding that it was consistent with those ordinance I mentioned, and that the 3 conditions, which the legal description be updated to provide that, pull that area out, fire access road be removed, and then the outlots for the pedestrian trail that I mentioned. So I can stop sharing my screen or go back if you'd like.
If you could leave that screen up, Russ, that would be great. Does anyone have any questions?
Ryan, I know it's separate, but pulling that out, is that because we're looking at more multifamily residential, or we're looking at pulling the cul-de-sac out? What's the main reason for pulling that?
So and Mr. Scanlon's on the line. So this area is, they have submitted a rezoning application for RD10, which is a 2-family residence district. And so the RS6 zoning was already in motion. So we continued that, and that was just approved. So this is technically, when it gets published, will be RS6. But what they would like to do is have a subsequent or an application that's coming in front of Planning Commission in April for their consideration, and yours ultimately, to rezone this to RD10.
And so we're talking 0 lots?
Correct, 2-family.
That
Can I-
satisfy your question? I'm sorry, Annie. Brent, did that satisfy your question? Okay, thanks. Annie, I'm sorry.
No, so I apologize for interrupting. So Russ, I just want to clarify. So what we just approved, or the RS6, they're going to request the same for RD10 or a different look. Can you point that out on your screen?
Yep, it's going to be this
Please.
area in gray right here. And so the request will be to change this zoning from RS6 to RD10. And so the preliminary plat that you see is just 130 lots with this area in gray removed. And so this new application is going to come to you. You're going to see a brand new rezoning application. You will consider that application request on its own merits, and a preliminary plat essentially would catch up, same as what we're doing here, and you would consider that on its own merits.
And was there a change, or can you help carry the story along?
Yeah, Pat, do you want to respond to that? Oh, I thought he was there. Oh, there he is.
Sorry, can you hear me? Sorry, I can turn my video on too. Yeah, we had changed that. Initially we were exploring an 11-acre multifamily parcel there that seemed to fit with the neighborhood. And then we decided to look at an all single family model. And after we did some of that, we determined that it might be better to have some duplex homes in this neighborhood, just so that there was a different price point, some different housing types in the neighborhood, because we really feel like there's lots of multi-generational interest in this area, and they want different housing types and price points. And I mean, that's what we were so that's why we figured duplex would be the way to go. And before, when we were looking at the multifamily, it just seemed too small of a site and too crowded. So this allowed us to, just provide some homes for either empty nesters or maybe a new couple to the neighborhood, but just to offer something nearby these other larger single family lots that would be a different type and also different price point. So we also wanted to put it, since we geographically needed to do a cul-de-sac in this area, we decided that it would be good to have this housing type tucked away back around this cul-de-sac, so it's kind of its own neighborhood as well, next to the school. So it kind of is its own little enclave, and closer to North Liberty Road, because it was a little bit more dense. So and it wouldn't have been as good in the west towards Arlington Ridge, which is all single family. So that's kind of how that was our thinking. And I guess I hope I answered your question.
You did, thanks. I think it's just helpful for us as a council, and obviously all those listening in. So thank you for that.
And I will say that at our good neighbor meeting, one of the people there was already wanting to buy one of them for their mother. So they were wanting it to hurry along so that they could have their mother live in the neighborhood near them. So I thought that was encouraging.
So I do have a question. Will the number of units in that area be the same since there's 0 lots now, or how will that change?
Great question. So that overall, the original concept was for 150 lots. So you have these, so this area outside's 130. So previously this would have been 20 lots, but it'll double. So you'll go from 20 single family residents to 42 family. Now, I would add that generally speaking, the footprint is similar, because it's basically a lot that would be a single family RS6 lot, that it just has 0 lot and 2 units on it.
Mayor Pro Tem, question for Tracy. Tracy, do we know, and this is probably for Nick, I know Nick's not on the line, we gotten any more comments from our ambassadors, specifically our Arlington Ridge ambassadors who are helping us represent those that are closest to this?
Actually, I might be better to respond to that. When we had the neighborhood meeting, I reached out to the neighborhood ambassadors in Arlington Ridge to let them know that this request was coming, because if they weren't, Arlington Ridge wasn't in the 200-foot radius. One of the, I believe it was one of the members, one of the ambassadors attended the meeting. So we are trying to get that habit of really reaching out to that neighborhood ambassadors, so they can be that mouthpiece to their neighbors about these requests coming through.
That's excellent, Russ. All of the comments post the first Good Neighbor meeting for the piece that we're supposed to be talking about. I know all of our questions are on what's been pulled out here, and we'll consider that at another time, Pat. Thank you for answering all the questions, but all the comments after that I have heard from folks in Arlington have been positive on this development moving forward.
Great questions. Anything else for Russ or for Pat while we have him here?
Just a comment, Chris. That's A-okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. Fire away.
So Pat, well, I guess you too. Thanks for being here. It's always helpful to have the owner here explain it, just from their own lens as well. And Russ, I really appreciate all your work on that. And it is helpful to see the plan trail connection and future just ideas out there. So thanks for that transparency for all of us as well.
if I could, and about that trail, you know, one option I have is, am I okay to talk?
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry. I have always really wanted this trail connection from Dubuque to North Liberty Road. I've always been really excited about it, and other people have been trying to talk me into just to make the backyards bigger and more valuable just by extending them 25 feet. But we've owned this sliver of 25 feet of land for so long, and at one point, someone tried to talk me into selling it to the developer of Arlington Ridge just to make their lots longer. And I always just have been keeping it all these years because I've just really had this dream of having this trail connection. So that's why I just been holding back the lot sizes a little bit in that area. And I also wasn't sure of when that property to the south was going to develop. So I've just kind of been holding that for sort of this kind of secret dream of mine. But I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's why the trail is still there. But I hope it happens. And the school district has been really excited about it too. So and been willing to partner on it in ways that they're willing to discuss. So I'm just very excited about it. So I hope it comes to fruition.
I saw one thumbs up and a lot of heads nodding, and I'll go first since I'm leading the meeting. Pat, I can't thank you enough for having that vision, holding back those 25 feet. It might seem inconsequential to just about everybody, but it won't for future generations. So that's tremendous vision. That's great. So I'm glad you took that time to tell us about that. All right. Anything else? Any more thumbs? Any more nodding? Any more questions for Russ or for Pat while we have him here?
2 thumbs up. That's a long loop. Sorry. Pat, you're going to make so many people happy with that kind of bisect there. So yeah, yes, I hope this dream comes to fruition. So I know I'm echoing, but I think it's awesome. And we don't always have an opportunity to sort of plan in that. So thanks for having that dream some time ago. And I hope we can continue these conversations.
Yeah, my grandfather had owned this land for, I'd say 80 to 100 years. And he was just really interested, and he was a surgeon, but he was really interested in farming. So I just want to, I just know he'd be really happy to know that was happening. And I'm just trying to preserve some kind of character in the neighborhood. So that's my goal.
So Pat, in this live instant virtual world that we're living in council, the neighborhood ambassador is watching and has texted me and has also heard good things in the time that we've discussed this. Are those 0 lots single story or 2-story?
I'm just developing the actual lots. I'm not going to be building them, but I would say they're mostly going to be ranches and single stories, definitely on the south part of that street because it drops down about, I think, 10 to 12 feet. I guess Devin could tell me about that. So the ones on the south side of the street will definitely be ranches because otherwise they'd be too tall and tower over the homes below. The ones against the school, I think, they could be 2-story, but I think the trend seems marketing wise that people really want ranches, and a lot of these are bought by empty nesters. So I would assume that whoever buys them and builds them, it's up to them, but more than likely they'll be not ranches. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, moving on then to item C on item 10, letter C. Item 10 is resolution number 2021-23, a resolution approving the preliminary plat of Greenbelt Trails parts 2 through 7, North Liberty, Iowa. And could I get a motion from council on this one, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Moved and seconded. Tracy, could we make it official?
Smith,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Hoffman.
Aye. All right. Pat, thank you again for joining us tonight and for that explanation. Have a great night.
Thank you.
You guys.
Okay, item number 11 is the dog park rezoning. This is our third consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2021-02, an ordinance amending chapter 167 of the North Liberty Code of Ordinances by amending the use regulations on property located on the east side of North Liberty Road, approximately 0.35 miles north of Oak Lane Northeast, located in North Liberty, Iowa, to those set forth in the municipal code for the P Public Use District. And again, could I have a motion from this council on this third consideration?
So move.
Second.
Thank you both. Tracy, roll call, please.
Wason,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Hoffman.
Aye. Thank you all. Item number 12, zoning code sign regulations amendment. This is also our third consideration and adoption of an ordinance number 2021-03, an ordinance amending chapter 173 Code of Ordinances of North Liberty, Iowa, entitled Zoning Code Sign Regulations, by amending several sections in chapter 173 related to exempt signs, specific sign regulations, and temporary signs, and by deleting section 173.09 entitled Signs in the Commercial Recreational Vehicle District. Could I have a motion from council on this item, please?
So
So
moved.
move. Second.
It's been officially moved and seconded. Tracy, let's wipe this one up.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Hoffman.
Aye. Item number 13 is also dog park related, dog park membership ordinance. This is our third consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2021-04, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinance of the City of North Liberty, Iowa, updating portions of the Animal Control Code and park regulations concerning membership for and use of dog parks and off-leash areas. Could I have a motion from council on this one, please?
So move.
Second.
Been moved in second. All right, Tracy.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Harrington.
Aye.
Thank you all. Item number 14 is Centennial Park project. And before we get into item 14 and 15, Ryan, could you just step in real quick and let everyone know how we're going to treat this one just a little bit differently, thanks to Shive Hattery.
Sure. We've done this from time to time when we want to get a head start on a project. And in this case, with not having booze and barbecue this year, it's a great opportunity for us to jump on this drive project within Centennial Park. So Shive's agreed to delay billing until July. We'll get going on design and hopefully have this project wrapped up prior to 2022 Blues and Barbecue. You're on mute, Chris.
Yep, I just recognize that. The big message comes across the screen that says you're on mute, dummy. Then the next item is also the same type of funding request, so I won't ask you to repeat that, but there'll be a similar thing going on with the next one. So thank you all. All right, officially, item 14, resolution number 2021-24, a resolution approving the services agreement between the City of North Liberty and Shive Hattery, Inc. for the Centennial Park Loop Drive Improvements Project. Could I have a motion from council on this one, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All right, Tracy, let's pick it up.
Sorry,
Hoffman,
Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, discussion. Thank you,
Yeah,
Ryan.
just a discussion point. I'm sorry. Ryan, is this the proper time to ask what the total project cost is for that drive? I'm sorry to put you on the spot. I think it was budgeted at around 700.
Yeah, actually, it was the loop road itself. We had in there at 620. However, that was a year old. Shive updated the cost figure with more recent concrete values that they're seeing, and I think it came in about 680.
Yeah, that, and we also added in the 2 sidewalk connections to the south that weren't in the project,
Right.
because they're 2 existing sidewalk stud that just stop.
So Kevin, that includes road, gutter, storm, sewer, parking areas.
Parking areas, yeah, there'll be permeable pavers just to match the other ones.
Okay. Anything I'm missing on that? What's in that project? That's included, I guess.
Nope, that's about it. Grading, permeable pavers, 7-inch concrete paving, storm sewer, intakes, seating. That's about it.
What's the total distance of that road, Kevin?
Oh boy, what is that? A third of a mile, maybe?
Do you know too, Kevin, the whole, like if we did the whole kind of loop?
Oh, the whole distance? I think is it a mile? I think it's a mile, or roughly under a mile, if memory serves.
Me personally, when I'm out there, if I'm going out there to run, I don't know if marking distances is easy to manage or something. Maybe something we look at with parks down the road. That might be nice to know what that loop distance is. Folks are using that.
When I'm out there not running,
Chasing the kids around. Yeah. How far are they just going to go?
what's that? No, sorry. We're running around climbing on all the structures. So one, Kevin, thanks to you and your organization, Shive, with delaying the billing there. So obviously I think that goes with our long-term partnership with you. So thank you for that. To Ryan, credit you and the team. I think just, obviously brilliant move to say, okay, we're not holding Blues and Barbecue. What could we do? So both Ryan and Kevin team. So thank you for making this a good opportunity.
Sure. And Brent, to your question, I just checked that number. It's 667,000 is what the estimated cost is on this.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Tracy, let's do the roll call.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Harrington.
Aye.
Thank you all. Item number 15 is the Forever Green Road Trail Project. Item A, resolution number 2021-25, a resolution approving the services agreement between the City of North Liberty and Shive Hattery Inc. for the Forever Green Road Trail Improvements Project. Could I have a motion from council on this item, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions or comments about this one?
I just had a quick question. So we're going to raise the whole grade, and then will it be above like the people's yards there, so that doesn't drain into that, or what?
Yeah, it'll be slightly above their backyards, just so that water won't go across the trail. So you have some water traveling on the south side and then on the north side. Because right now you have all those back slopes that are seeping out onto the trail.
And then are we putting tile line under that to divert the water from the yards further towards the?
Yeah, what we're going to do is put in 3 cross culverts underneath to carry the water from the south to the north. And then at the very bottom, we're going to have a beehive storm intake, which will collect the rest of the water. And that'll tie into an existing storm sewer that the DOT installed. And then one thing that we've been talking about recently is I think Ryan and Guy will probably be planting trees in this corridor later on. Not part of this project, but find locations to kind of soften up the corridor and replace some of those trees that were removed as part of the Forever Green Road project.
So, and then
Kevin,
when
when you say culvert,
yeah.
sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah. And then when you guys slope that, you'll make it so they can mow it, right? So there won't be such a curve that you won't be able to mow.
Yeah, because we're not going to be able to raise it up too high. So yeah, it won't have a steep slope.
Okay.
Okay, so my concern is the aesthetics of culverts. Culverts are ugly. They're terrible to look at. And if these folks are looking out their back windows into a culvert, what are we talking about? How big?
Yeah, they'll be small culverts because it's not a whole lot of water, but they'll also be tapered. As a matter of fact, I think there's one fairly close to you, Brent, that goes under the North Liberty Dubuque Street Trail. That is kind of a tapered one, so it doesn't look like a standard just pipe.
Thank you.
So it'll kind of go with the topography.
Great questions, you guys. Anything else? Okay, seeing none. Could I let's do a roll call on this one then, please, Tracy?
Wason,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Thank you all. Item 16 is the Iowa DOT agreement. Item A, resolution number 2021-26, a resolution approving the agreement for maintenance and repair of primary roads between the City of North Liberty and the Iowa Department of Transportation. Ryan, either of you, I imagine higher, give me a real quick one on this.
Sure.
Seems like a big
I
deal, but
can-
not really.
I can jump in here, and if you want the boring legal answer, Grant can jump in after that. But this is a standard agreement that we've had with the DOT for a long time. We're just re-upping it for another 5 years. They have this with any city that has a state roadway through it. And there's no wiggle room. This is the agreement. And if we did have other issues or agreements with them, as it's noted later in that particular agreement, there'd be a separate agreement just for that. So we have various project agreements with the DOT. This is just a standard. Here's who's taking care of what within our community. It's what we're doing today. It's what we've done for a long time, and we recommend approval.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
Ryan, does this have anything to do with the letters that we all received from the DOT making the corridor? I forget the term of what was in the letter.
It was a preservation corridor, so I'm working on that. So I'm reaching out
That's
to DOT to get kind of clarification on what that means, so I can report back on that.
So the answer, Brent, is no, it doesn't have anything to do with that.
Okay, so I think we need to make a motion on this item yet. I think I've forgotten to do that. So could I get a motion from you guys, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments or questions about the agreement? All right. Thank you. Tracy, roll call, please.
Harrington,
Aye.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
All right. All right. The reason we're all here, the reason everybody's tuning in at home now or in the future to watch the meeting. Item 17 is our discussion on franchise fees. Ryan, I'll let you start off real quick. Could you give us our 2 objectives if we so choose to pursue them this evening? Oh, and now you are on mute.
You're right. A little screen does pop up and tell you something. The first objective tonight, or one of 2 objectives, is determine if this group wants to move forward with a franchise fee, a utility franchise fee. Once that decision is made, if it's no, discussion over, and we can be done. If it's yes, then we need to determine what amount or what percentage you would like to see set up as a utility, as a fee. we've provided some additional data in the packet outlining different options. And I guess I would just, I'd throw it back at the group or to the Mayor Pro Tem to ask us questions or have the discussion.
All right, that's what we're all here for. So feel free to unmute yourself, jump in. You don't need to raise your hand, ask any question. I think the first thing is there a general consensus that we are interested in pursuing a franchise fee?
I'll just jump in, Chris. You bet. So yes, I'm in favor of a franchise fee for both. So I'll start the conversation with that.
Thank you.
I too am in favor of a franchise fee as well.
Thank you, Rakisha. All right, while you might not be in favor of it, is there any opposition to it? Let's just strike that off of the table right now.
Mayor Pro Tem, anytime we talk about new fees, new taxes, it raises the hair on the back of my neck, as it should all of us. You know, we don't, I think most of us don't go to get elected to raise fees, raise taxes. We've done a very good, I'm going to leave myself out of this because I'm new to the councilor role. Staff and previous councils have done a tremendous job in assuring that property taxes were not raised for over a decade. That's phenomenal, and it's kept us competitive with other cities that are around us. So I would say thank you to past staffs, councils, and current staff for the work that they've done for years for that. In the world that we are in, with being one of the fastest growing communities, I know Tiffin has taken that over from us most recently. There are growing pains, and most of those growing pains, from what I've seen as a resident, the spending has been things that we put in the ground, infrastructure that we can't see, and that's really hard to justify to folks when we're asking for more, when they can't see, touch, and feel what is everything that's going in and the expenditures. I think with a franchise fee, we're to that point. I would be in favor of this. I'm more in favor of user-based fees or things like local option sales taxes, where those that are visiting our city are helping us pay for things, versus putting it on the backs of property taxpayers. So that's my piece to why I agree more with this type of fee. And I think that we will benefit from it. And those residents here now will be able to see quicker turnaround. And again, I'll go back to what Ryan cautioned us on. Just because we approve this doesn't mean we're going to have brand new parks and new playgrounds and everything overnight. I get that. But this is going to put us on a little faster track than what we've been on, to have those tangible, touchable experience types of things with the expenditures that would go from this money.
Thanks, Brian. Brian, anything? It's like you got something on your mind.
So I think that I'm with Brent that, you know, the concept of raising taxes is not a very good idea, but I think that, you know, we have to get some things done, and we're really got over the last couple of years, we've almost kind of gotten ourselves and a little bit paralyzed on some things because we're afraid to raise taxes or raise fees for things and stuff. And there are certain things that need to be done, and we've delayed a lot of things, and we need to move forward on a few things. You know, I'm more in favor of things for, you know, park and recreation related things, or critical city infrastructure. We just need to be careful that we don't hamstring future council from, you know, using some of the money. We have to make sure our revenue statement is clearly delineates the preferences for parks and things like that, but still allows the staff a little bit of flexibility if something else comes up.
Yeah, good points. And I'll just jump on with one more thing, and both everybody understands this as well. None of us are in favor of increasing fees and taxes for our property owners, but as Brian mentioned and Brent did as well, Centennial Park is a perfect example of trying to do the best that we can with the revenues that we have, and we've just it's taken us a couple of revenue cycles now. And we're just now getting to the point where we can chew off of the last big piece of that, and it just took some time. So I'm also in favor of moving ahead with this. So okay, so that's out of the way. How do you guys feel about the percent? 1%, 2%, I think is really all that's kind of been on the table since the last meeting. Is there a consensus on there? I'll just go first. How does anybody feel about leaving this at 1% and not leaving it, starting it at 1%? And I feel that that's in line with what Iowa City and Coralville are doing. It's not anything out of what those two cities close by are doing. And it's something that we can adjust if we need to in the coming years with that. And I feel that again, on that fine line of increasing some fees, I'd rather just increase it a little bit if we could. I think we can do a lot of good with just that 1%.
So don't fall off your chair, but I actually think that probably 2% makes a little bit more sense. So I think Ryan sent out an email. I didn't get a chance to read all of it, but I kind of asked him what you could do with 1%, and you're somewhat limited. Even on a 10-year, if you're bonding something, you would use it all up and still not knock one of these big projects. So I think I'd probably try and go more so that we can use it to knock off a few things that we can bond for and get it done. The 1% thing really actually limits what we could actually do. So I'd actually be more in favor of the 2%, but no more.
Brian, I appreciate you saying that. And I guess I want to echo earlier, none of us are in favor of raising any of these taxes. I appreciate your example there. Sorry, a little extra pollock here. As far as, Centennial, because that's something, personally, I've continued to probably kick the can down the road a little bit. So I think with that, the charts for everyone here to see are really helpful if you haven't looked at those in the previous meeting or this packet. So I think with that too, for our discussion, I would be in favor of the 2% as well, just if we're gonna initiate something that we can then utilize those funds to do something a little bit more. So open for discussion, but in favor of the 2% as well.
And real quick, I wanted to jump in. Ryan, could you clarify, when you sent that email out today, you were just specifically asking for how much of those proceeds from a bond would be usable to us. Those are not bond payments, though, that would be due every year. Bond payments could be a portion of the revenues collected from this franchise fee. We wouldn't be putting all those to just making bond payments necessarily.
But so, I mean, when we get to that point, it'll really depend on how the council wants to, I guess, do that. But if we're instructed that if we want to fund let me take a step back. The reason I worded it that way was just to show that if we borrow this money over a 10-year period on a $1.6 million project, our actual cost will be about 1.8 million. And that's after you figure in the interest. And so I guess I just wanted to make the question that was submitted to me was, how I understood it was, how much are we actually going to be able to use towards the project? And so that's what I was trying to show. Now that 1.6 million, actually 1.8 million over a 10-year schedule will fluctuate. Sometimes we front load it, sometimes we back load it, just depending on the advice of our financial advisor. Did I answer your question, Chris?
Yeah, a little bit. And I guess the point of it is that, in the first year or two, we can bond for some things that maybe get us to that 1.8 2 point whatever million out there, and then we might not bond for anything for a couple of years. It might be year 9. We could bond for things again. I guess the point that I was making is that the whatever we're borrowing for doesn't need to be repaid within these 10 years projections. They might not even be borrowed for 10 years. It's just a possibility for having that. So, and that's what I'm trying to get across, is that a bond payment is not the same as paying for all of that right now in 5 years or for 10 years. We're not just limited to what we are able to borrow in that year for the next 10 years. So we are going to front load some things, but we may take a couple of years off if we don't need to. And this is not the only source of revenue to pay for parks. This is just another tool, another arrow in the quiver, if you will, for us to do that. So this is not going to be the sole revenue source for paying for parks projects. So just wanted to make sure we could clarify that. Borrowing doesn't mean that that's all we can do with that money. Bond payments can be shaped however we want to, whenever we want to.
Yeah, my intent when I asked Ryan the question was to kind of get some idea of what our bang for the buck would be, just saying, hey, what can we do now and stuff, just to give it some kind of rough baseline so you can kind of, everything would flex depending on what you were doing and stuff. So it's not necessarily meant to be, you know, how big a project you could do. It's just basically some reference point. So.
Rakisha, Brent, how do you guys feel about this percentage?
Ladies first.
I would say, like, just in retrospect of thinking how, of course, we never want to raise any of these fees or property taxes, and that's been said multiple times, multiple ways, and we've been able to maintain and get things done at a slower pace. And when you look at how the pace is going, and if we want to really like push projects along, it would make sense to do the 2%. But knowing that that's not the only route that we would have to go. I am in favor of the 2% because I too would like to see things move along, and knowing we have those options. And in comparison where other communities are with the 1%, it has worked for them. But I think where we're at 2% and how we've prolonged some of these projects for so long, and I think the other previous counselors have been very strategic in that as well. But I will be in favor of 2%.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, I think, you know, I appreciate starting low and having the ability to climb over time. What I've looked at is the initial spreadsheet that Ryan sent to us where we could, you know, put our own numbers in with our own bills. We could send them to folks and share, you know, what the impacts would be at the different levels. And when I look at that, the variation and the difference between the 1% and 2%, I don't see the difference between those two really being much different at all. So if it's, you know, if it's worth starting and doing, I think the 2% is a good starting point. I do not think that the 2% is going to be a, you know, that obtrusive to the majority of folks. I do understand, and I know Tracy does very well. You know, we have some folks here in town that are struggling, and she and our staff have worked very closely with them. They've worked very well with them. We've been very lenient. We've been resourceful in what we have done through the pandemic and the derecho and all of these things that have hit us this year or this last year. But just looking at those numbers and those differentials, I think 2% is probably where North Liberty should start.
Okay, thank you, Brent. Thank you all for that conversation and for you know, just making it known there. So I think we've got our answer. If one of you all wouldn't mind, I think it's Ryan, this is what you're looking for, some type of resolution. Can we do this right now? Do we need to what's the next move here for you?
So the next move for us would be to bring back a revenue purpose statement, which you saw draft in the agenda, as well as set up a public hearing for a first reading of the ordinance. And in the background, we've already touched base with the utilities, but we'd let them know that we're taking this a step further. So we could begin this process as early as we have 3 weeks in between meetings now, or 3 weeks. So we could begin this as early as April 13th with the first reading, and go from there.
Okay, I think that's the direction we're heading then. Does anyone else have anything else on this topic before we move on?
So just, Chris, if we didn't have City Hall coming up, I would be with you a little bit more on the lower end. But I think that's going to, kind of the Ryan kind of told you what each $500,000 of bonding is going to cost. And, so I think that this helps us a little bit, because I think a lot of this will be used for parks. So.
Yeah.
Ryan, I would just ask, as we move forward with the utilities and we have those conversations with them, that we would ask that our communications director would be involved in the messaging, if they would so allow, and have direct communications between Nick and them in the messaging that goes out through the utilities on what this is, how it works, so that we can be truthful, transparent in the messaging, not just on our own platforms, but through the utilities, if it is available to us.
Yeah, and we would certainly have those conversations. I don't know that. Well, we just don't know enough yet on what they'll do. So that's something that certainly is on our radar. Thanks.
Okay, thank you all again for that conversation. That was helpful for staff. I know exactly. So moving on, item 18 is any old business. Anybody else? Anything we haven't covered yet, or that you're doing outside of this meeting for the city? Okay, item 19 is new business. All right, you guys.
A couple things.
Yes, sir.
So I think that, I don't think there'll be a meeting beforehand, but I believe April 10th is Muddy Creek cleanup. So hopefully we'll be able to get out and do that this year, and kind of make up for last year a little bit and see how things are going. And then I did really appreciate the claims from this meeting. It was much easier to read than the old system and stuff. So I think already our little software upgrade has been paying off.
I'll just say what Tracy's thinking. She told us so, Ryan.
Yeah.
Nice. I was the old guy. I like the old format, but I'll get used to it, Tracy. I'll get used to it.
You will, I promise.
Yeah, I will. All right. Anything else, you guys? All right. With that, thank you again for your conversation and letting our public know where we were on those franchise agreements. So with that, you guys, let's